A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Revant Agrawal,
And I, Harshita Kaushal,
of PGB Batch 2224, warmly welcome you all to the fifth panel discussion of the HR Summit and the second panel discussion of the day. Before we delve into the topic, I'd like to make a small announcement. In our endeavor to commit to a plastic-free HR Summit, there is a drinking water facility located just outside the hall for your convenience. The topic for today is creating a resilient workforce, strategies for change management. Today, we will discuss how in an era of unprecedented change, technological advancements, economic downturns, and industry shakeouts that drive businesses towards constant disruptions, what strategies could aid organizations meander smoothly through these very transitions? How could organizations build resilient workforces amidst turbulent times? With utmost gratitude, I would now like to introduce our esteemed panelists, before which I would request our esteemed panelist and the moderator to please come up on stage. I now have the pleasure of introducing our first panelist, Shri Hemant Kumar Ravi, Head of Human Resources, Kantar Analytics. Mr. Hemant Kumar Ravi is the Head Human Resources at Kantar Analytics. He has 16 plus years of diversified HR experience across HR transformation, HR strategy, people experience, HRBP, talent management, talent development, and organizational development. He has previously worked in Cognizant, HCL Technologies, L&T, Reliance, Wipro, Randstad India, Accenture, and AB InBev. He has also served as visiting faculty member at IMT Ghaziabad, wherein he taught strategic human resource management for banking and financial services. He is also responsible for setting up HR operations, GCC People Capability Center in India. A proud alumnus of IMT Ghaziabad, specializing in human resources, information technology, he is playing a foundational role in the growth, operations, and empowerment of organizations. So it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
I now have the pleasure of introducing our second panelist, Shri Rakesh Prasad, Assistant Vice President, HR, Indigo. Mr. Rakesh Prasad is the Assistant Vice President, HR at Indigo and lead Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. With almost 18 years of enriching experience, Sir specializes in focus areas of workforce budgeting, recruiting and staffing, policy formulation, employee engagement, HR analytics, employee orientation, training and development, amongst others. He has previously worked as Director, HR and Regional Manager at Indigo, successfully managing overall functioning of in-flight operations in Eastern and Southern regions. Sir, we welcome you today to our panel discussion.
It is a privilege to introduce our third panelist, Shri Vishal Sharma, Global Head of HR Manufacturing Operations, Supply Chain and Quality, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals. Mr. Vishal has more than 20 years of experience working with companies like Aditya Birla Chemicals, JSW, Glenmark Generics, IndusInd Bank, and ICICI Infotech. His exposure to such diverse sectors, ranging from banking to pharma, services, and manufacturing, has made him an expert in delivering excellence through strategic people initiatives. He is a member of the International Positive Psychology Association. He believes in investing in skill acquisition, skill enhancement, and upskilling through structured learning programs in order to make organizations future ready. So we are honored to have you here with us.
Our fourth panelist for today is Mr. Yogesh Luthra, Senior Manager, Talent Acquisition, IGT Solutions. Mr. Yogesh Luthra is a Senior Manager, Talent Acquisition, Global Sales and Leadership Hiring at IGT Solutions. He is an HR professional with over 14 years of rich industry experience in talent acquisition and 8+ years of experience in building and leading high-performing teams. Sir has developed and executed recruitment strategies successfully for talent acquisition across several geographies encompassing India, APAC, Middle East, Europe, South Africa, and USA. He has extensive expertise in a wide range of recruitment functions, including sales and leadership hiring, volume hiring, niche hiring, lateral hiring, IT hiring, and campus hiring. Previously, Sir has also worked with coveted organizations like EY, Infotech Global, and Seguro e-Services. His experience mainly lies in identifying cost-effective sourcing channels, maintaining the right recruitment matrix, CXO level planning, and gap analysis. He is an alumnus of XLRI Jamshedpur in their executive development program in human resources. Sir also actively partakes in volunteering for child rights and social action. Sir, we are truly honored to have you here with us today.
I would now take the privilege of introducing the moderator, Professor Kamal K. Jain, Distinguished Professor, HRM and OB, IIM Raipur. Professor Kamal K. Jain is a professor in the area of OB and HR at IIM Raipur. Before joining IIM Raipur, he was a professor at IIM Indore, where he superannuated. He has also worked as a professor of strategic management, HR, with University Tun Abdul Razak, Unitar, Malaysia. He has more than 40 years of teaching experience. Besides teaching at IIM Indore, he has taught at IIM Ranchi, Helsinki School of Business Finland, IMT Dubai Campus, IIM Sambalpur, IIM Sirmaur, and several other esteemed institutions. I now request Professor Satyasiba Das, Dean External Relations in charge, IIM Raipur, to welcome our panelists and our moderator with a bouquet. Thank you, sir. I would now request the moderator, Professor Kamal K. Jain, to take the panel discussion forward.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, all my panelists, my faculty colleagues, all the dear students. This is the second day of the summit. You do not look tired. It's a sign of your resilience, right? And I never knew that as a moderator, I will also get a bouquet. Otherwise, I would have volunteered to moderate 2 panels, right? As we want to talk about this topic, I was advised that you should always begin a session by saying something of interest for the audience. So for the audience, this is for you. After this summit is over, for the next 3 days, you will have no classes. But I said this is of interest of you, but I did not say that this is true. Right? I just wanted to say something which is of interest for you, right? And for the panelists, you should always say what is truth and may not be of interest. And the truth is, after this panel discussion is over, the lunch would be waiting for you, right? This may not be of interest for you, but this is of a great interest for me. Okay. So thank you very much. the structure of this panel discussion is we will give 2 minutes initially to all the panelists to make their introductory remarks. Then we will have some question answers, right, one by one. And then, of course, towards the end, we will have few questions from the audience. So can we begin? Let's say, when we want to start this kind of panel discussion, as a moderator, your biggest challenge is how do you decide the order of the speaker? So I was also in a dilemma, what should be the order of, this panel discussion? So then I came up with an idea. The idea was, I will pick up the name and see what is the meaning of this name. So the first name that I picked up was, whose name, the meaning of his name is gold or Lord Buddha. So what can be better than to begin with Buddha? So Hemant, this is for you.
Thanks for the introductory remark by the team, and privileged to be here addressing you guys, right? First, be comfortable, and it's not a learning class or session where you have to be serious. Okay, so the best part of being here is to get to know you guys and get to know the faculty and the esteemed panel members, right? So let's be very casual about the things that we are doing. It's not a 2 days workshop and you have to get something. But I hope our discussion will be of some importance to you in your career charter that you'll be moving forward with. I'll talk about me. I'll talk about topic, and then we'll see how it percolates down. A BTech guy, 2005 batch, worked as a techie for Cognizant for 2 years. Then I felt that that's not where I want to be. Gave CAT, got 99 percentile. That time Black Eye used to be the IIMs, and you guys are privileged that you got IIM tag. So that's great. Got from IMT Ghaziabad, did HR and IT because I wanted to be a SAP consultant, as a consultant in HR domain in transformation mode. But market was down, 2008, 2009 time, right? Ended up being with L&T in Middle East, and had great experience there working with Yogi Shriram, who used to be my mentor, my guide, and he was this batch. Sooner than later, I realized XLRI and TISS are someone you have to compete with if you are going to be having a career in, HR domain. Kept reinventing the wheel, 18 years, fast forward, 17, 18 years, 8, 9 companies. Where I stayed for 3, 4 years. Where I didn't stay, I stayed for 2 to 3 months, That's how millennial lifestyle is, So if I'm not reinventing the wheel, if I'm not changing myself, I think that all of us are as a product, we have a shelf life. We have certain skills that has to be honed time and again, just like any professional, like say a cricket, you guys will resonate with it. You have to do a lot of net hours, 4-hour net practice day in, day out, and then you get a match time of 5 to 10 minutes of play, right? That's how typically it works. So my only honest submission is don't take yourself seriously. Keep learning, stay hungry, stay foolish. And that's how it has worked for me, at least. We are talking about disruption era. The topic will be around, what are the power skills that are most important? And we have learned professors and academicians, so I'll lean on them. But my only thing that has worked for me was I felt that, you have a 30-year of career life, and do the best that, you resonate with. So I think
thank you.
I'll take a pause there.
So next is the god of yoga, Yogesh.
Thank you, Professor. So I'll start with me about the organization and the topic of the today. So I have somewhere around 15 years of experience working in talent acquisition, and most of the experience that I have working in a similar organization, same organization, approximate 10 years with IGT Solutions. And if someone asked me that what is the reason you're working in the same organization, what is so good about the organization, I say that my home is hardly 1 kilometer away. So another thing, that I liked about the topic and I resonate with, when I joined the organization, it was hardly somewhere around 3,000 employees, and now we have somewhere around 25,000 employees. And to reaching from 3,000 to 25,000 employees, you feel as good as, like you buy a property at cheap rate, and when you after 10 years, you feel that the rate is very high, to feel, very good. Similarly, you feel grown that you're working with the organization is growing. And the reason the organization has a hunger, we work in a strategy of, no strategy. We just want to grow. We want to grow. We identify that this is the thing that we want to do. And now, what is the latest thing that we can do? So I can say we were always very resilient, expanding our organization in different geographies and all. And our leadership was from the very beginning, they were very, hunger. They have that kind of hunger and that kind of resilient. That took us from that within some couple of years from 3,000 to 25,000. And I think this is the only, being resilient is the only thing that you can grow in the organization. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, so next in the series is the Lord of Night, Rakesh.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. I'm sitting in front of all the people of IIM. I have to be very careful and choosy with my words because I come from a operation background, and there it's called BB Bindas Bol, which I can't do here. And of course, in front of the professors and all distinguished guests. So it's an honor of mine to be here. And, I was just going through this huge campus and it's just beautiful. So congratulations to everybody who has managed to maintain this. And in fact, all the best to sustain it. My background, I started my career as a cabin crew with an airline which doesn't exist anymore. And I worked for about 3.5 years as a cabin crew, and then was very curious to become an instructor, a trainer. And from there on, I moved to become an instructor trainer. We used to call that cabin safety training, because all that you see the cabin crew doing out there in the aircraft there's a much longer training that goes at the background. And there is a safety aspect that is being trained for almost about 3.5 to 4 months. So we started calling our cabin crew the ninjas on board. And so I became a trainer later, and I was into cabin safety, flight safety, customer service, all of that I did. I got my education from an academy, not education, but skilling done from an academy in Singapore while I was working. And then from there on, I proceeded to head the operations for East and South in Indigo. And there I worked for quite some time, almost about 6 years. And from 2014, I've been in HR. And that's been a great opportunity for me to come here and work in HR and get to know the organization holistically. And then, so I look after about 9,000 employees, their HR from hiring to life cycle to exit. And along with that, I also take care of diversity, equity, and inclusion for Indigo. And otherwise, I am also a coach and I'm a therapist, a hypnotherapist. I did that learning journey during the COVID times. A lot of people reached out to me when the anxiety was over. So I didn't get many clients. But that was a good learning for me. And I truly believe that I think you need to be curious to learn, whether you learn while you were studying yet not attentive in your class, or while you are working and you keep your learning journey continued.
Thank you, Rakesh. So if all three gods have to be present in one, that person has to be Vishal. Right? So Vishal.
So first of all, my gratitude to invite me to IIM Raipur for this session. Thoroughly enjoyed the campus, the hospitality, the warmth, and I saw the flawless execution of the plans these students have. So since yesterday, I realized that I'm out of place in this world. These young kids, and suddenly I saw, sir, that I have a solace now, right? Because somebody I can match in terms of my number of years of age, if not experience. So I said, fine, I can relate to sir, maybe not to all these students and their thinking. In my current role, I have 16 manufacturing plants to manage. 10 are in India, 6 out of India. And their employee set belonging to 16 nationalities, their way of working and Indian way of working. So there's a lot of learning which happens day to day in my role. Coming to the topic of resilience and organizational resilience, very important, especially in today's times. Two things I would like to start saying that. One, organization or enterprise are not finite. That's the mistake we do when we say that this company would last forever. There are external forces, internal forces, and when you see the organization going bankrupt, being target for acquisition or selling off, now these are the situations organization unfortunately do not prepare for us the way it should be. Second, and that's a message to all these students, you can't decide the nature of the adversity which you would face. You can't. Whether not getting a good placement or flunking class or getting through a breakup, that is you can't decide. But what you can decide is how do you deal with that adversity? That is in your hand. And that's how we become more resilient. So these are two things I thought I will share. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I hope you will appreciate that I have very carefully planned the batting order in the first inning. But in the second inning, I will act more like Dhoni, and the batting order will be based on my intuition. So we understand from your introductory remarks that resilience is a thing to go. And it's a very critical topic for the discussion. As organizations face unprecedented levels of uncertainty and disruption, it is more important than ever before that we develop strategies that enable employees to adapt, grow, and thrive. Resilience in dealing with negative elements and outcomes is very important, and a culture of optimism and hope will have to be developed. So Yogesh, I would like to continue with you because you touched upon this point. How do you think the organizations can help the employees so that they are able to manage these negative emotions, right? Those kind of things which may be part of this resilience. So your thoughts on this?
I think it's more about values rather than culture. There has to be trust in the employees and the management that the organization will grow and you will grow with the organization. I'll talk about the times of COVID. I was talking with my grandmother. I was talking to her that it's a tough time. A lot of people are dying. A lot of people are losing their jobs. Then she said, you know, Yogesh, I have seen World War II. I have seen times of plague. I have seen India-Pakistan partition. A lot of things I have seen, and we are growing. India is growing. So sometimes when you're working in an organization and there are tough times, you need to create an environment of optimism and hope. Maybe your organization did something 10 years back to solve a problem that is not right for today. You have to find a different solution. But value that organization will grow. You will grow with the organization. That optimism and hope. People don't need what you exactly did 10 years back, but they need to know that this organization is stable, the leadership is with you, and you need to create that kind of environment within the organization of optimism and hope. I actually wanted to touch this optimism and hope. You touched upon about it.
So Yogesh, you also mentioned about, you cannot, sorry, Vishal, you also mentioned that people cannot choose their adversity, right? The adversity, you only need to know that how do you handle this. So I think bounce back from the failure is very important skill that our young generation should know. And what can be better example of, Chandrayaan 3 versus Chandrayaan 2, right? So I would like to have your thoughts, what we need to do so that our young generation is prepared for the bounce back when failure is there, because failure is going to happen in the case, right, when the environment is very disruptive. So what would you like to suggest on this?
See, one thing is, many times when we go through a series of failures, we develop, the psychologists would call it learned hopelessness, which means that your brain, your subconscious is learning that whatever you do, you would be a failure. That happens in life. Please avoid this learned helplessness. Tell your brain that you are not a failure. Second, you have done something wonderful that you are here at IIM Raipur. Take pride in that. Take pride in your hard work. And I keep telling the younger generation, be self-compassionate. Pat yourself on your back for a good achievement, right? You don't need others to pat you on your back. Develop that optimism that if today is not good enough, tomorrow would be much better. And, have some patience. Careers are not linear. With each year, your careers would grow. Is not going to happen. Careers sometimes are unpredictable. But if you are ready to chart that unpredictable path, that is where you will develop resilience. Have faith in your family values. You are not alone, please, you are not alone. So whether it is organization, whether it is all of you or all of us, we have a responsibility for ourselves before we show that responsibility to others. And most of the time, we do not show that compassion, that responsibility for ourselves. Please treat yourself well. You are a wonderful human being. You are full of hope, optimism, and hard work. That's why you are here. So continue that thinking in your days ahead, and I'm sure you will realize it makes a difference the way it has made a difference to me.
Thank you. I like this idea of, learned helplessness, right? A very prominent idea that you are throwing. I remember a story. The story goes like this, that there was a man who had a horse, and very old man and very poor. The horse was very beautiful. So the people in the village told him that, look, why don't you sell the horse? You will have enough money and then you can live your life right comfortably forever. But this guy will say that, look, this horse is not a horse for me. This horse is a friend to me. How can I sell a friend? So will not sell the horse. So then what happened? One day when he got up in the morning, the horse was not there in the stable. So all the people from the village, they came that, look, we told you, you are idiot. You must have sold the horse. Look, something bad has happened to you. And he said, don't say that something bad has happened to me. Only say that the horse is not there. Who knows that something good or bad? So then incidentally, what happened? That this horse, after a few days, came back with another horse. Then all the people in village again assembled there and said, look, we were very wrong. You are absolutely right. You know what? Something good has happened to you. You had only one horse. Now you have two horses. He said, don't say that something good has happened to me. Only say that I have two horses. The people said, this guy is idiot. How to handle this? We don't know. And then incidentally, what happened that after he had two horses, his son was riding this new horse and he met with an accident and fell. He broke all his, leg and some fracture in the body. All the people came there and said, yes, you were right. The horse was not lucky for you. See how something bad has happened to you. Again, he said, don't say that something bad has happened to me. Only say that my son has broken his legs. So then what happened? After a few days, a war broke out and all the young people were recruited for the army. But his son was spared. And again, the people said, look, something good has happened to you. Your son has been spared. And the story goes on. But what essentially I'm trying to say is that if failure is not permanent, right, success cannot be permanent. Both have to go together, right? And therefore, Rahim Masoom Raja said something very interesting. What he said was, हम सफर में नींद ऐसी खो गई, right? इस सफर में नींद ऐसी खो गई, हम न सोए, रात थक कर सो गई, right? So, so with this, we move to the next part of our discussion. And I read one news item in the Economic Times. The news item was, many companies these days, for example, companies like RPG, L&T, Hero Motor Corporations, they are hiring people from army. And they're saying that this is very crucial for them to hire people from ex-servicemen because they are very useful when it comes to resilience. So I just want to understand, how do you think these army people can contribute to resilience? What skill set they bring, which make an organization resilient? And Rakesh, I heard that you also have a lot of ex-servicemen in your organization. So can you please throw some light on this?
We are very fortunate to have almost about 20% of our pilots who are the ex-military personnels, and Indigo takes pride in giving them a re-employment. In fact, there are almost all of the people who have come from the military background. There's a lot of discipline they bring in. There is a lot of learning that we get to see from them. I think resilience is one of the key aspects that is being taught in defense, in the military service, in the military services. So, in terms of what is the skills that is that your question, right? What are the skills that? Yeah. So some of the things that we have always seen, in terms of the special that they bring into the table is the discipline. And the second is the fact that they go along with the people very well when they come to the civil services, when they're working with the civilians. Mostly with the army, with the retired personnels, there is a lot of empathy that they also bring in. There's a lot of empathy, there's a lot of compassion that they bring in. And one of the elements when it comes to people culture in the organization, empathy and compassion stands at the forefront. All the organizations in terms of what do they need to bring into the table is look at people first language. We talk about people process policies. If it is people first language, I think that's where you will invest a lot in your people. Most of the times the processes and policies are not aligned to the people, and that's where some companies don't really do well. And I think that is the key aspect that we have realized. And the policies and the processes in the organizations have to be aligned with the people. Somebody said that, content is the king, but context is King Kong. And if the business goals and objectives are not aligned to the people mindset, success will be delayed than faster. And therefore, in our organization, we have believed this as a very basic guideline and the guiding principles in all that we do throughout the organization to keep our people first language. Very recently, we also onboarded our journey. Not very recently, we've been there since many, many years, but in the past 2 years, we onboarded our journey to bring in the persons with disability. And we started also working in the space of, LGBT. And we realized that with the people, with the population of PWD, persons with disability, growing in the organization, the emotional quotient also improved amongst the people. So I think anything having said that you could get the policies, processes, you can create a culture in the organization, but unless and until that is not meeting the people need. See, today's buzzword is what's in for me. And, and people would want to know what's in for them. It's an employee world. It's an employee market. Okay, post-COVID, there has been a lot of requirement of skilled human resource. And during the COVID time, and also right now, there are a lot of opportunities, online courses that are available for people to get skilled. So it was not like 20 years later or 2 decades later earlier when you don't have an opportunity to get skilled while you're working. So how does organizations also create that sort of an environment where people take up skilling journeys? I think that's equally important, and that's where many organizations are tying up with educational institutes to let people get skilled, because the thirst for getting skilled has right now become more intense than how it was earlier. So one, definitely the empathy, the emotional quotient. The second one is constant skilling. And that's what also I learned from one of my friends who's a colonel. He said, I keep taking up some of the other courses by the virtue of the fact that I am in the department in Army, which allows me to do so. And they also have programs where they encourage people to keep learning continuously. So continuous learning is the key towards success. Skills that could be relevant today might just be extinct tomorrow. And that's how the VUCA world is, the world's top 10 skills, as defined by World Economic Forum, out of them, the first top are soft skills. And they say that's the skills of 2025. So, these are the conversations that are today happening within the corporate world, within the society, and information is so easily available over the internet. So it's not very difficult to get access to all of that. So therefore, yeah, and the other thing is, you see, in aviation world, in aviation world today, you see automation has taken lead. I don't know how many people have used Digi Yatra, but if you go to the airport now, like in Bangalore and in Delhi, there are this Digi Yatra. You just have to enroll yourself, show your face, and every time the door will see your face and open it for you. So there is an equal investment of investment of your resources, investment of your capital that you need to do in in contextual to the aviation industry in the digital transformation. And people have to be skilled enough, reskilled enough to learn to take up that path, which is the digital path. So I think these are few things that I believe which organizations today, at least with us, we are very, very wary of, and in the path to see how do we shape up ourselves to face the future, as World Economic Forum defined that the top 10 skills are soft skills, but the next one is also digital transformation. Digitalization is the word that has been there today and is the word of the future. And what are the skills that might just become extinct tomorrow is what need to be careful, so that you hone up the skills that would be available or would be the very popular or thought of skills that one would like to acquire.
Thank you. But Rakesh, is it not counterintuitive? These people who come from command and control kind of organization, how do you think they adapt to corporate culture?
I think they do a phenomenally good job.
Okay.
Aviation, actually, if you see, it's a very SOP driven industry. Okay. It's a very standard operating procedure driven industry. In the plane, a pilot has to follow standard operating procedure. And, that's what even in your defense services, people follow a very standard operating procedure. So for them as a culture, there is not much of a change that they get to see. And in fact, inside the cockpit, they have to follow every steps that is defined as per the manufacturer, that if you have to fly an airplane, you have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and not the vice versa. Otherwise, we won't land. And the other part is, what we have seen is they have the people from the armed forces, they have a lot of very high in their emotional quotient. They go to the extent to be with their employees, even if there is some unruly passengers, and they would be standing by to say that, I am your back. And that's the kind of, feeling that they give to their colleagues, and the camaraderie that they have within themselves, and what they create across departments is just phenomenal. So we have had some great, association with them, and we thoroughly enjoy it.
Okay. You think this is the trend likely to continue in other industries as well?
Other industries with the defense personnels, as far as I know, some of my acquaintances have joined the security services.
Okay.
And some of them at very senior leadership positions. And when I interact with them, they say that, we have brought in some discipline around people, which wasn't existing. But from a standpoint of what is the service, what is the product that you're supposed to deliver as a security service, is safety. Safety needs discipline. And without discipline, it's not going to work well. And especially when you're dealing with people who are semi-skilled, if not, unskilled, then you really need to bring in discipline, that governance, at times policing. So industrially, in that contextually, to the security services as a product, it works.
Yogesh, wanting to say something?
Yeah, definitely. Hello. Yeah, I would like to add here. We know that people from the military forces, armed forces, they are doing good in the organization, in the corporate. And we need to identify what kind of personality traits they bring to the organization. But one thing is for sure, that any army personnel have that kind of traits because they spend a long time in that armed forces or military. And then military, armed forces, they spend a lot of investment, trainings and all. And now they have that kind of personality traits. So can we, in the corporate environment, can we spend that kind of investment, that kind of trainings to our employees, so that our employees have similar kind of personality traits like a person from the army has? So this is one of the important things, so that we have within the system, within the organization, we have people who have similar kind of traits like a major has, like a colonel has, and then it solves the problem for the accountability, for the integrity, ethical leadership, or taking decision in ambiguous environment. So I think these are the things which people, or armed forces people learn during their journey, during their career in armed forces. But should we create that kind of learning environment within the organization as well, learning from the armed forces and creating a similar workforce within our corporate? I think that is going to solve the problem.
Good. Yeah.
I just want to add something, whether it is people from the armed forces or whether it is people from any background, what is very important is that the role and the skill mapping, which organizations have to do very diligently, because then if you don't do that, then you're setting people for failure, setting up people for failure. And that's a very key element that I have interacted with many people in the industry, which seems to be taking a back burner, the role and the skill mapping.
So if we talk about change, right, we are saying that, look, in the age of disruption, you cannot be a follower, right? You have to be the leader. Because when a company wants to follow a new product which has been introduced by some other company, you are actually playing to the strength of your competitor. It is not going to work for you. And therefore, what we are trying to say these days is the change has to come from within. It is not that something changes outside and then you bring change inside. You have to think what new things you want to bring in your organization, right? And in that context, there is a story before I throw this question, right, with the panelists. The story goes that, there was a Japanese Zen master. He went to USA. Zen master, they are actually religious people. He went to USA and he was in a pizza shop. He ordered for a pizza. Pizza was given to him. He gave him $20 bill and he was hoping that the cashier will give him some change. But he did not give him any change. So this Zen master asked the cashier, "Hey, where is my change?" And the cashier from the other side said, "Sir, very interesting and very funny. You are a Zen master and you don't even know that the change should come from within." Right? So, Hemant, what do you think about this kind of scenario?
So I was listening carefully to the speaker, and I think two perspectives that I will bring to table is one that, the change has to be internal. You guys might have read Simon Sinek's, Golden Quadrant. So basically what it says is why you are doing what you are doing is most important thing. I mean, why are you into business? Why are you existing as an employee or as an individual? That's very important. It's intrinsic. You have to understand that the purpose is bigger than everything else. So once you're clearly sorted that why are you existing as an organization, as a product, as an individual, then you're 70-80% sorted. Then it's about how to get that thing achieved and what are the next steps that you will be taking, right? So my thing is adding to Rakesh Vishal's viewpoint, first understand why you're existing as a product, as a company, as an individual. Then you figure out that, the process is important. So the moment you know the process, you will be able to do the continuous improvement, Kaizen, Kanban, whatever you want to talk about. You'll keep on reinventing the wheel, because if you do the same thing time and again, you'll end up getting the same result. So you have to do that incremental delta change. But the change that you are referring to, I think it's more transformational in nature, and that will take courage. And that is where resilient, mindset comes handy. There's a concept of Carol Dweck's growth mindset. I don't know few things as yet, I don't know dancing, but then if I have that intent, if I have the right competency, I'll be able to develop myself. I may not be the great dancer like Ritik, but I'll be able to do a 4-step, dance. I can show myself. So the point here is fail fast, fail early, be open to change. And then I think that mindset is more important than anything else. So once that is sorted, then we are good. The last point to veterans, we call them veterans, and I had the privilege to hire them in Wipro as well as in Amazon. There's a great hiring happens for army background professionals. I think they bring a robust system processes and SOP, the way sir told, right? So my only point here is I have seen, and I was reading this book called Think Again, by Adam Grant, if you guys know, right? So there was a nice story, and I'll talk about that for 2 minutes quickly. There was a fire in Arizona forest, and 15 Navy SEAL folks were, from fire brigade were told to, assuage the fire. They were, dropped from the helicopter into the, thick, heavy forest, which was, burning with fire. And it was like, like going by exponential thing. They had all the machineries, everything, but then they were not able to assuage the fire. They kept running. And it came to a situation that 100 feet from them, the fire was coming towards them. 15 odd squad member, right? And they started running for their life. Only one guy survived out of those 15. And the thing that he did different was he said, like, let's fire around ourselves. No one was listening to them. Everyone said, like, what kind of, insane thought process. Already we are under the fire and you're saying, let's fire around ourselves. The point he was trying to make is if you have to stop a fire, you have to have that, at least 10 feet of thing already burned. So if you don't have fuel to burn that area, you are safeguarding yourself. That critical analytical thinking is a mindset. In the run, on the run, if you get through a situation, you can't come to know about that through best practice. Best practice is done and dusted. That's why it is industry norm, but it's about next practice. You need to really reinvent the wheel, think, why do I exist as a company, as an employer, as an employee, and get the best of the mind to solve a problem which never existed. Companies like Apple, they are not a product company. We all say it's an innovation company because they throw the kind of products that you never thought that you'll need in life. Think about a smartwatch or, any application, any product that they are launching, right? It's ahead of the curve. So they and Porter and all those, framework you guys might have studied, the pestle analysis and step, process like that. But point here is this guy or the company has this mindset that, I will solve the problem which doesn't exist. So I'm ahead of the curve, the early mover advantage. That's the term we call, right, in B schools, right? So I think that's where you will be much more advantageous if you define the rule of the game than following the game. So, yeah.
Okay. So, being ahead of the curve actually requires that you create an environment of what we call as psychological safe environment. The people should feel free to say whatever they want to say. Gone are the days when the management philosophy was that you are free to say anything as long as you don't care about your career. Right? So you are free to say anything that you want to say. But these days, the organizations have to build that culture of psychological safety. So Rakesh, what are your thoughts on this?
It's a very interesting term, psychological safety. And I started talking this, term since 2 years ago, psychological safety, when I got into the diversity inclusion space. See, a couple of things are, when you talk about psychological safety, I think the processes and the policies in the organization has to be very, very transparent and very well defined. And organizations that do good, whether it are startups or any established organizations, their policies are very well defined. Policies in alignment to the business needs. So one thing in terms of psychological safety, any one of you who go to join an organization, you will first see how you will check the policies and you will get to understand that it's a very transparent culture that they have. You might have read about culture. Culture is definitely one element of that culture is that your policies have to be very robust. All the B schools that I have got some or the other skilling done, whether it is Harvard or ISB, culture eats strategy for breakfast is what I've heard all the time. And, and initially I was wondering how will it eat strategy for breakfast, but I realized only when I make it very contextual. The second thing is it's called contextual intelligence. That's another word that I learned. Contextual intelligence, as in one of the thoughts in my previous thought, I said that the content is king and context is King Kong. So psychological safety also comes in when people understand the context. Because how safe am I? How safe is my job? How secure am I for the future is the context setting that will tell me, like I said earlier, that, am I really prepared and geared up to hone the future skills, to learn, relearn, upskill myself to be ready for the future. And that again brings in that element of psychological safety, that yes, I am safe. What safety am I looking at? What is the safety am I looking at? For people getting into a job, they are right at the bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy, right? I go to make some money, and then I go to get married, and then so on and so forth. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at all of that, which describes in Maslow's hierarchy. I think to a great percentage, it might be true to most of us. At least for me, it is true. So, so that again is, as I said, the contextual intelligence. A lot of people bring in a certain bit of baggage because we are different. And in terms of difference, we were talking to professor over a cup of tea. He's sitting right there. And, we said we are all different in terms of our thoughts. And where does those thoughts come from? We see an image, it gives us a thought. And the thought is filtered through our belief system. Where does that belief system come from? The belief system is an affirmation that we have, and basis which we filter all the things that we see and we understand. And, therefore, changing that belief system, changing the baggage that we come along with has to be only when I understand that what's in for me. And what's in for me can not be better understood unless and until I have contextual intelligence. Another thing that organizations should be looking at, and that's a very standard and a very strong element of a great culture of an organization, and that is continuous and effective communication from the leadership. I remember during the COVID times, we had continuous communication, and that's what as an HR we were trying to make sure that all leaders are continuously engaged with their team members through various forms of communication. And we continue to do that even today. Anything that is going to be launched in the market as a product, as a service, will be informed to the employees before it is being sent to the media. So employees have that faith in the organization for reasons that, okay, whatever goes out is first being channelized through us. And the last thing is, the fast-paced world. It is such a fast-paced world, okay? What is today is just become extinct tomorrow. We are so used to buying a 1 lakh rupees phone, just like peanuts and, butter from the market. So things just become, and for things that, it has got a new functionality, and that functionality I don't like, iPhone 6 is very different from 7 and so on and so forth. And there's no end to it. So what is my aspiration? What is my aspiration? What do I want? And some people just run for looking at what others are going around. Okay. Does it really make sense to me? I'm running behind because that person is running. Let me run. That's called peer pressure. This word I learned long ago, and that's called peer pressure. Okay. Because my peers are buying an Apple 14. So should I buy Apple 15 just to stay ahead of them? Because the world is saying we have to stay ahead of the curve. So what does it mean to me? That's very important. What do I want in life? And what do I want in life? As I remember something, and I was talking to Pragya while I was coming from the hotel to this place, that in our Hindu system, we had this what do you call that, panchayat. Panchayat, there were 5 wise people sitting, and everybody would go to that 5 wise people to get some knowledge to if they have an issue, if they have a problem, they will go to them for a solution. Similarly, I think in today's time, every one of us needs a coach. Every one of us needs a wise person in our dictionary who we could reach out to. And all of you are so fortunate and lucky that you have such wise people, the professors around you, who you could reach out to. I have that opportunity to reach out to wise professors after doing all my B schools from different universities. But before that, I did not have when I was a cabin crew. So I made somebody in my dictionary, a person who happened to be wise people, and the person that you choose will help you reach your destiny.
So thank you, Rakesh, for saving our job as a professor. Vishal, yes, you want to add?
Quick point. If you really want to understand the organization's approach towards resilience, we need to understand how much psychological safety is there in the organization. Now, it's a very basic stuff, right? Amy Edmondson made it very, very complicated, but it's a very basic stuff, which is, let's say one of the young student here joins my organization. When the student joins the organization and she says that this is what I don't like, right? This is not my view. Now the manager says that that's fantastic. Appreciate, right? I understand from where you are coming. That's one approach, which is ability to listen without consequences. Now, if I am heard and there's no consequences if I speak out, for me, this is the biggest indicator of a psychological safe place, and that will lead to an organization which is resilient all the time, because the employees feel, yes, we can express ourselves. This is very simple, right? Don't punish, don't shoot the messenger.
So बशीर बद्र ने कहा था ना कि जी बहुत चाहता है सच बोलें, जी बहुत चाहता है सच बोलें, क्या करें हिम्मत नहीं होती. Right? So that courage would be necessary, and not only from the one who wants to say something different, also from the recipient's end, right? So thank you very much for bringing that point. So in the next part, there is a little bit of twist in the sense that now I will not be playing the moderator role. You as a panelist will be playing the moderator role. Each one of you would be asking one question to any one of your fellow panel members, and then we'll have question answer from the audience. So it's for you.
Okay, let me start. So this question is to Mr. Vishal, and what I want to understand is, we spoke about resilience, we spoke about change management, the culture part of it. In the current gamut of, generative AI coming in and disrupting the industry 4.0, how do you perceive professors and the students to be change ready and bit more resilient wherein their job is at stake, So a lot of jobs will go away, So if you can give some context around generative AI, the way market is disrupting and what they can take.
Right. So I think I was writing a piece, on the technology side. So I will just give you quickly that context and then come back to your question. So I was addressing students like you. I said, those who doubt technology's ability to do things, maybe in few years' time, what humans do is a waste of time. We should not doubt technology. Tomorrow, we would have a human brain, which would have 86 billion neurons, trillions of synapses, which will mimic the human brain. And that human brain, for example, I put it in a robot, right? And the robot says, hello, to a beautiful girl, says that I love you, right? The question is that I'm not doubting the robot's ability to say I love you. What I'm saying is whether that beautiful girl say I love you too, right? That's the understanding humans need to have about technology. Now, coming to your question, technology plays multiple roles, right? One of the role is the role of complementarity, where it complements in job creation. It's just not here to remove jobs, right? And it has been happening from the 1930s. We have seen industrialization and so on and so forth we are doing. So in the era of AI and ChatGPT, there'll be new skills requirement to become resilient. And those who feel they are relevant today, I think that's the question they need to ask. Would they be relevant tomorrow? And I was asking two students, I said, tell me, if I come to IIM Raipur for interview and I say, okay, hello, If I want to hire you, tell me why should I hire you in comparison to somebody else? So if you do not develop those skills, don't sit on, okay, you have done your MBS. MBS is one fine thing you have done good, but then go deep what you have learned and make sure what you have, at least 99% others do not have. That's the only way you would survive in the jungle of a world driven by AI and ChatGPT. And how much creative you can become. Creativity is a process. It's not an epiphany coming out of the, thunderous bull. No, this is a process. So it's up to you. And I don't think things are going to be very drastically different just because there's a new technology. How do we adapt to those technology would automatically define what's my makeup towards being resilient. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm done with the question.
I just wanted to
Asking questions. So my job is done now.
I just wanted to say something on what Vishal said, I go back to see my daughter. Okay. And in their school, though she is in CBSE, but, she carries a lot of books and bag is very heavy. Every month, the handle of the bag breaks because of the heavy books. But in fact, very recently, the education system has been announced by the government that it will change. So look at how technology is adding value to people's education here, and that too right from the childhood. The international board have a pedagogy which is basically experiential learning, and I go back to my daughter's friend who goes to a school, heritage school, and they have this international board, and they don't carry any books, so they just carry themselves. And the school itself provides food, water, all that the kids want. And they give them a topic and they say, okay, you go and look it out, check it out. So the kids will go to either Google Scholar or Google and do their research, and they'll come back the next day. So one of the skills that is being pushed into the education system is the curiosity, which later builds in, gets you to be more innovative. So I think, and then the whole class has some technology, some tools that help the people to be more curious and keep their learning hat on. Technology will always have an advantage. And I think this is one example at the very entry, at the education level where the kids go to, I see technology bringing in a lot of value. So people say that technology will make some of the jobs redundant, but I think something else will evolve that might help the humankind and the world to be a better world, especially in the space of medical technologies. Now there are robots who do very precise operations. So there are no towels and scissors that might be left inside the stomach by mistake. We have heard some of the news that came in the past. So technology has its own advantages as well.
So Vishal, you can go back to your question.
Okay, so anybody can answer, but I can start with you, right? The scenarios which are happening in terms of work from home and hybrid, what troubles me is the dilution of social connection and social experiences. Now, this is something which worries me because you're not meeting people, you're not sharing experiences. The second is we tend to be a little more fragile in these kind of scenarios because we are not experiencing different behaviors. Right? My question to given this background, that if your organization intends to remain resilient, right, and then take the trajectory of a being resilient organization, what kind of work we should do to bring those social experiences, connections to life?
Thanks for the question. And I think this is a very pivotal question. In fact, today I was coming from Trichy to Bangalore and then to Raipur. And this was a nice article that was there in Times of India, Business Economic Times, right? It's a very hot topic, the hybrid working culture, the remote satellite working model, work from anywhere, anytime. So there's a lot of buzz around it. A lot of companies have their different models working and operating, and that might be suiting that particular industry or the company. So there's no one size fit all answer to this. Even we as an organization, 1,000-odd employees into data science, data analytics, data visualization space, and my CEO and I keep, along with the CFO. So they keep fighting that, Hemant, bring that 5 days working model back. It's not working out. And then these guys are comfortable working 2 days in office and rest 3 days. They are able to prioritize other stuff. So CEO's daughter is trying for under 14 cricket. Wife is another, company's CXO position holder. So the thing is, employees, what do they want? And there was nice LinkedIn post that, there was some survey done by World Economic Forum. 79% of people are asking that we need flexibility. And this is data, pure data fact. Out of 5,000 plus survey done, respondents, 79% people are saying we need flexibility. So what we are saying, there is no one fit all answer. The resilient, the culture, the DNA, why the company exists is very important to be percolated down to the grassroots level. The way it happens is we have a nice vision, culture, statement, integrity, all those kind of things we'll talk about. Those are cards on the table. So when you're going to a casino to play the sport or the game, you have those cards. Everyone has that card. I have 6 core values, 6 ethos, DNA. What is differentiating is why do you exist? And the moment that is clear to each employees, the autonomous self-validation starts happening. You start taking ownership of what I'm doing, why I'm doing. So then it is very easy for a CEO, CXO to, build the culture because they are all closely knitted to one common DNA, the purpose, right? So I think that's more quintessential when we are looking at like what model works. Typically, industry has been able to operate at 2 days working from home, 2 days working from office kind of space. It also gives the context to the macro and micro level scenarios. So example, if my industry is into financial domain wherein, the confidentiality of data is important. So either you have a very robust AWS, web services and Google cloud-based data that anyone can access that data with the kind of without breach of, cybersecurity, or you have some mechanism in the way your people are able to have, the sense of belongingness, sense of awareness, but there's no one size answer to it. I mean, you can't really justify that, 2 days working model is working for me. So that will work in any other industry. Manufacturing is different. The aviation industry is different, right? So there's no one size answer. The last point that I will try to tell is look for why you are working in that particular company as an employee and as a future, professionals. Don't look at what is the CTC I'm getting, what is the designation I'm getting, because those things are very transactional and transitionary or not very, it's very trivial in the larger game of things. When you're talking about 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, creating your own legacy is more important that, I did that change. I'll give an example. We were working with a company called ABN Web, 4 years, 2018 to 2022, 2020 COVID hit. And we had to implement Workday across 54 countries as a SCM platform and 15 languages. Entire organization, the team across APAC, Africa, Europe, and NAS, North America zone, worked in a very remote working. No travel. Travel was on freeze. We all had to do the kind of design thinking, roll out those initiatives as is gap analysis, assessment. Everything happened remotely, and we were able to drive that through and successfully rolled out Workday in 2 year span. The target was 3 years, working closely with Deloitte as a consulting partner, working with IBM as an implementation partner, $20 million project. So if that scale we can achieve, and it was like, you're working across time zone. So I think why to bring people to office, more than that, it is important why do you exist and can that role work in whichever manner you are choosing to work in, right? So that's where I rest the case.
Thank you.
Yogesh, you want to add something?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to add something here. We need to identify how we make social connections within the organization. So it is most of the time when we are drinking together. So can we make an environment when we call our colleague, our teammate, or our boss, let's have a coffee together on a Teams meeting. Okay. How we create a social connection in the organization, like I purchase something, I buy something, we distribute sweets within the organization. These are the few things. That's how we make connections. can we still distribute sweets to our employee? Maybe I'm in Raipur, my colleague is sitting in some other city. Can I still ask someone or, distribute sweets to them? Maybe, I'm talking to my colleague over the Teams, and I am able to understand that person is, sounding low. And I should not hesitate that it's a team meeting. It should be professionally. I should ask that why you're sounding low. And these are the small things. If we do, I think we will be able to make similar kind of social connections like we do in the office.
Okay,
Thank
so I think you have time for us to have Q&A from the audience. So the floor is open.
Good afternoon, panelists. My name is Sarthak Singhal. I'm from PGP batch 2024. So my question is that how organization sees corporate restructuring in turbulent times, especially given that the employees won't be feeling that they won't have the job next day. So how value systems and culture, everything span out when people are fearful that they won't have any job. So, and from financial perspective, it's really easy. Like companies, financials are going down, so you have to do cost cutting. But how future pans out? What's the thought process of corporate in that sense?
Okay. So, see this sadly, organizations, most of that, do a very poor job in preparing their workforce for future. For a life of me, I can't understand the layoffs which we have seen in tech industry a few months back. What happens suddenly that you are laying off thousands of people? Whether you are very optimistic about future or you realize that something terribly was internalized and that's how you had to lay off the people. Unless there is an event like a black swan event like COVID, I can understand, right? That you would do a lot of restructuring, things like that. But when you start talking about your organization's 2 years plan, you do in future, right? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you don't factor in any variability. It becomes a very smooth ride that out of 100 crore, let's say EBITDA, 60% would come from my organic, 40% come from my inorganic. No, this is a very simple mathematical calculations, and organizations do not deal with the variables which are there outside, which are there not in control. So if you are planning, be transparent, right? That's far better than laying off people, which is like you lose your bread and butter. So if you prepare your workforce for tomorrow, these are the possible scenarios. We can be sold. Perfectly fine, that happens. We can acquire something good. We can sell our product, very good. But you are mentally prepared that what is lying ahead. Suddenly, one fine morning, we are restructuring. That's actually bad. That we should not do. That's my take on this, your question. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, panelists. My name is Shreya Nama. I'm from PGP Batch 2024. First of all, thank you so much for such an interesting and engaging panel discussion. Secondly, we discussed in the starting of the panel discussion that organizations like to hire people with armed forces because they're resilient and bring discipline to the culture. So there's another category of people with certain mental disorders, for example, ADHD, who are, some studies have found that they are very resilient. And then people with autism are found to be better at analytics. So my question to all of you is that where do you think organizations are lacking in their effort to hire these people, and why?
Are you okay if I answer? So see, I just go back. Okay, I just go back in the cinemas that I used to see while I was growing up. There most of the times, what has happened is that I have at least seen in cinemas that a person with disability, not really a rich man or a rich woman, that's the kind of mindset that people grew up with. And unfortunately, that has happened in the past to encompass these people to come and work and give them an equal opportunity, unless the government defined in 2016 the Person with Disability Act. One of the examples that I take is Lemon Tree Hotels. They do a fabulous job of employing autistic people. And if you remember, I was talking about role and skill mapping for the autistic people. This is one example that I'm giving you. And then I'll share one example of our organization as well. The autistic people are very good in doing what they do. So if you give them to clean a plate, they'll keep cleaning the plate, and they can clean the plate even better than a dishwasher. So they give them that role. So they've done the job mapping and they give them the role, and they're doing it phenomenally well. Now, a lot of companies, in fact, with Indigo also, we started working with persons with disability since our inception about 17 years ago. And that is the reason why you see that the ramp, which is attached to the aircraft, doesn't have staircase, it's a ramp. So that it's easy for the wheelchair to go up the aircraft. And also with us, as an organization, we have employed many persons with disability, and it's really great to work with them. The idea here is not to exclude them and make a separate policy for persons with disability, but the idea here is to give them equal opportunity to work with like anyone else. And therefore, calling a person with disability as a separate inclusive policy would not be right. In fact, it will be right for organizations to say we are an equal opportunity employer. Whether it is PWD, LGBT, man, woman, anyone who comes in, you come with a skill set, you come, we are assessing you, we're evaluating you equally, and you get the job. In fact, I've spoken to many organizations, many PWD in my course of the past 2 years, and everybody has said, "Hamare pe rehem mat kijiye. We don't need any rehem, okay? You give us a job if you feel that I have that skill." And if they think that way, then we should not think that, we should create a separate policy for them to include them in the organization. Obviously, there is something called equity. You need to give them the right tools so that they can perform. Otherwise, there are a lot of these infrastructural challenges. Most of the persons with disability that we have seen, they are education deprived because in the school that they might have gone to, and second floor is class 6 and they can't go up the second floor. They had challenges, so they backed out of education. These are the challenges that they've gone through, during their growing up days. Have I kind of managed to answer your question? I did that to the best of my ability. Is there anything else that you are wanting to ask? I don't see you to be convinced. Mike. Oh, they still lag. Okay.
So you did point out that there is there's a different kind of perception about these people. So that is one of the reasons that they're not being hired if anybody comes up front.
That was not now.
It still is. I mean, if I go out, let's
Yes,
say,
you're right. You're right. I mean, there is definitely. I'll tell you again, this to a greatly comes from the belief system that when the hiring managers has to be very well sensitized, that do not look at the disability, look at the skill. That is still existing. I'm with you. But what I'm trying to say that lot of efforts right now are being taken by organizations, NGOs, the government, to see how best we can bring them into the workforce. And I'll tell you right now, I'll give you our example. We are not getting candidates. We have a lot of requirements to, for persons with disability, but as I said, it's an equal opportunity, but we are not having candidates. I mean, there is a dearth of PWD candidates in the market, in the employee market. So even that's also the other side that we get to see.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, my question arised because I did not see a lot of requirements being posted specifically for these people. But then, yeah, thank you.
But that's because equal opportunity employer.
Yeah.
The moment you start segregating them, that's not what they want. They just want to feel included like anyone else when they walk in for the interview. That's about it. And interviews of organizations should be happening if it is a walk-in interview at any place which is outside the office location to ensure that they can access the facility. Because most of the places in our country doesn't have ramps where a wheelchair can roll. There are no tactiles where a blind person can walk. Yeah, so there's a lot, there's the infrastructural changes that we have to do. I was in London and I saw a wheelchair passenger, a wheelchair person was motorized wheelchair, going on the footpath like a car, because the footpaths are very accessible. There is a lot that as a country we have to do.
Okay, so we have time for one more question.
Good morning, sir. My name is Ayush from PG Batch 2224. Sir, I was listening to you closely about the resilient and the change management when we implement in any organization. I have two questions. First, how do you address the employees' resistance whenever you implement any change management? So there are two perspectives. For example, in hospitality industry, it doesn't actually, you have to be on the ground. There's no work from home setup. And we have seen airlines working through during the COVID amid risk, they were giving the service. And also whenever there is a corporate setup where we have a work from home, and now there is a resistance from the employees coming back to the office. They are very much accustomed to the work from home. And my second question is there any plans for Indigo to employ guys? I mean, they they're known for employing only girl power, and unlike Vistaras or Air Asias and even Qatar Airlines.
I can take up the second question first. See, our woman is to men ratio is one of the best in the world. We stand at 44:56. The pilots that we have, again, the world standard is 7% and we are at 15.3%. So in terms of men and women ratio, we are better than the industry. In terms of there could be a specific department which you're talking about, but our girl power is also focused towards all across departments. Like I said, the cabin crew is called the ninjas on board. And similarly, we have these people where there is the Women 2.0 programs where they want to come back from the sabbatical if they've gone on a maternity leave. So there are these various programs available. So you can be rest assured that it's not just, women, we have taken these steps, but men are equally there. They are 56%.
Okay, so with this, we come to the close of this panel discussion. And for the panelists, आपकी तारीफ में मेरे पास कहने के लिए बहुत कुछ है, लेकिन टाइम नहीं है, तो खाली इतना कहूंगा कि आपकी तारीफ में मैं कुछ लफ्ज तो कह दूं, लेकिन क्या करूं, आप लाजवाब हैं. Thank you.
On this note, I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the panel members for their valuable insights on the topic and for sharing with us their enriching experiences. It was truly an extraordinary discussion. I now request Professor Sanjeev Parashar and Professor Rashmi Shukla, Chairperson, Corporate Relations, to extend the certificate and memento to our panelists and our moderator.
सर आप कितने शेयर बोले हैं सर? एक सुन लीजिए मेरी तरफ से. So before I came here, I was wondering what I'll do. So ये शेर आपने तो सुना होगा, but फिर भी सुना देता हूँ. उर्दू में एक वर्ड है दीद. दीद का मतलब होता है डेडिकेशन, लव, राइट? सो माना कि तेरी दीद के काबिल नहीं मैं, माना कि तेरी दीद के काबिल नहीं मैं, पर तू मेरे शौक देख, मेरा इंतजार देख.
Shri Hemant Kumar Ravi. Shri Rakesh Prasad. Shri Vishal Sharma, Shri Yogesh Luthra, Professor Kamal K. Jain. I would now request all the dignitaries to gather for a group photograph. We will now break for lunch. I request all the students to remain seated until the dignitaries leave the premises.